Just when I'm trying to take a break and relax, NASCAR 21 throws a dev diary. Did not expect them to actually do a dev diary for this series. With all the information that kind of came out with the game, and even like a little bit of the achievement stuff, it just looked very bare bones. I guess to put it lightly, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff in there that like I'm surprised. I was surprised. So, yeah, there's a couple of things to kind of go over here. With this, it does mention the cars, how they're trying to implement the realism, all the other sort of stuff in the game. And everything. So I'm curious about it. So this is the first one that's interesting. We get a cockpit, which that's not surprising, but we get a better look at the gauge. Looks good. I'm kind of curious of how. I mean, this is like really up close from the perspective. I'm curious if you can adjust it. Just I'm trying to talk and like make a point. Neighbor has to drive by and make their cameo, but yeah. So interesting shot. I like this. It's good. A little bit maybe personally for me, a little too up close, but I'm not gonna really use this angle a lot, so it's not gonna bother me personally. But yeah, it looks fine. Everything in terms of what's on the dash here it's good. This is interesting. I want to pause this and show this here for a second. This is fascinating. I'm actually going to move my camera so you can actually see this here. But this is very interesting. I don't know if YouTube's probably blocking some of this, but we have a timer. We have cars on track. Let me mute this for a second. Yeah, you saw that for a split second. I wish I can... Yeah, that has cars on track, overview lap data, car setup options. An interesting thing is the wind temperature. Apparently wind temperature. What the wind speed. Oh my god, I can't even talk. So that is very interesting. We have never had an NASCAR game really played into the whole wind aspect. So that's interesting. I'm very curious of how well they're going to replicate that. So that'll be interesting. But we get this slider here, which is pretty similar in terms of like the heat gains when they have this slider. So yeah, it seems like maybe this is what's going to be on the pad, or like that pad that you're given in like the, when you're in pit road. Maybe this is like what's on there. I don't know. Or maybe this is just a normal car setup screen. I'm going to assume it's the pad, but yeah, so this is probably all the information you're going to get. I mean, obviously they're looking at like car setup now, but I'm assuming this is what's on the pad, so. Yeah, and it seems like in terms of like setup or little things, it's actually going to explain stuff. I mean, it mentions about the front tires lose traction before the rear tires. Those of the car will slide towards the retaining wall. So it seems like they're actually going to explain things, which the heat gains kind of stopped doing. If they ever did, I don't even remember. But hey, that's nice to have that explained for people that don't know much about like setups and stuff. Now this seems like a camera angle the game's going to use. Like when you have a cockpit or anything like that, it seems like this might be another shot or camera angle that the game will let you use, which is kind of just a little bit further up, and I don't know. I'm fine with that. I like that. If that's the actual camera angle in the game, I like that.
Track. However, this process of making things feel right wasn't always easy, as real-life NASCAR teams don't make all their setup information public. They have their secrets on how they make their cars the fastest on the grid, and each one is hand-built. So we worked...
This is another issue with NASCAR, just being really, really stingy and stubborn with stuff. I mean, obviously with setups, I can understand that. But one of the bigger problems is just how... why the damage model in these games have always been so lacking is because the teams and sponsors don't want a video game car to get damaged up too much, which is stupid. So that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just ranting.
Directly with NASCAR to gather detailed aero, drivetrain, suspension, and setup information to make NASCAR 21 Ignition the most authentic driving experience in the market. As a player, you'll...
That's good. It's good stuff. Good to hear. I have no problem with that.
Experience the different aero packages on the car depending on which track you're at, so you'll see and feel a difference between your cars on the 1.5 miles, short tracks, and even treaded.
I do want to mention about the aero package. Obviously, my face cam's in the way again, but yeah. So again, good stuff. We saw this in a couple of the preview shots where they were talking about, not talking about, but we were seeing, this is big at some tracks, other tracks are smaller. Some tracks have the 550 horsepower, some have the 750. So, yeah, it's good that that's addressed here, and, that's being replicated into the game. Again, I appreciate that. I'm really hoping, again, like I was saying in my last video with this game, the biggest selling point of this game is just going to have to be the gameplay, because there doesn't seem like to be there's not too much other stuff in this game. Like, for God's sakes, it doesn't even have a championship mode, which is baffling because NASCAR Heat 2002 did. Jesus Christ. And online seems to be from everything we've heard, is probably the worst thing I've ever heard of. I mean, League Racing's dead, it sounds like. They don't, unless we get more information about them having the option to kick people from lobbies, being able to do other sort of stuff. I don't know, it's a yikes. It's a yikes. So the gameplay is the only thing that this game has going for it, and it has to deliver. If it fails on that aspect, any other good thing in terms of graphics or the environment or how the cars are set up, it's all going to get completely eradicated if the gameplay doesn't work and the AI aren't, competitive, or at least aren't on rails. Because we've seen a couple of screenshots where they're just in a line, which that's horrifying. Because that reminds me of a lot of the early tennis games like NASCAR 2011, a lot of them were just in lines, and NASCAR 09, it was like that too. So, yeah, I'm hoping the gameplay works as intended. Now, this is interesting. This is our first actual in-game gameplay, and just what I was fearing from stuff where I was seeing in R Factor in terms of the HUD. And stuff like that on the screen. It's not that good. I'm not really a fan of it. I'm not really a fan of this stuff on the bottom right of the screen. Like, what is that? Honestly, I probably would have been fine with probably a gauge that looks similar to how it would be inside the car. But yeah, I'm not too big of a fan on this. But hey, we get to actually see when assists are on, so that's interesting. We got brake control, stability control, stability control, and traction control. I said that all out of order and all completely wrong. But yeah, so we got that and stuff. So that's cool. And I like how there's hopefully I don't know what I'm trying to say. A timer. My face is blocking, but we got a timer. Hopefully, when we look at lap times, it actually shows it has a lap time that counts, or a live lap clock thing when you can track your lap time. So it goes from. It's sad that I had to explain this because the Heat games did do this when you're in the race and it shows your lap time. It will only update the lap time when you complete the lap and not have a live timer of sorts when you're in the race. Maybe this will, I don't know. But hey, that would be nice because holy shit, we have lacked so many different details. But I do like this angle. I like how it's not so close to the car. In the Heat games with this angle, your camera would be right at the back bumper here. That's where it would end. And it would be always really odd. I don't know. This goes back to all the way to Dirt Daytona, where they would do that. And I was not a fan of it then. I wasn't a fan of it now or back then with the Heat games. But this seems to be an appropriate kind of camera angle shot where you see enough. It's not super duper zoomed in, but this is a good perspective. I'm kind of curious if this other shot here is supposed to convey us that this is hardcore mode. I don't know. I mean, obviously in the previous clip, you saw like when the brake control was on, you saw it light up on the bottom right of the screen. So that reminds me a lot of like the Thunder games when you have the assist on and when it will show when it's activating, when you can actually see the thing like light up. So I'm kind of curious if this shot is supposed to show us of like hard code. Oh my god, hard code. Oh my god. Oh my god. Hardcore mode. Holy shit. God.
Helping hand, or you're a veteran that's ready to dive into the deep end. NASCAR 21.
Yeah, that Martinsville shot. Obviously, this is probably like early build of the game, but yeah, those curbs are freaking huge. But it was kind of like, if this is like an actual AI driver, then interesting detail that they actually hit the curb. You see that? Like, they hit the curb. Also, it's weird, too. Like, you see Chase Elliott here all by himself. He's not running on the bottom? Like, that's weird. Like, we've seen this in a couple of shots with this game at Martinsville. Like, the AI run the high side. It's weird. Like, I don't know. That's the thing I'm worrying about the most, is just how are the AI going to run? Obviously, in this here, it's hitting pretty well. You can't really tell the AI have any sort of oddities, but this is one of those like small glaring kind of things. So I'm kind of curious. That's the biggest thing I'm worrying about, is just the AI. From everything I've heard with R Factor and the Oval package, the Oval stuff with the AI is a mess. So I'm very curious how they're going to be able to do that. That's probably gameplay and the AI are going to be my two biggest worries, because from what we know that they're basing this game's physics on. Obviously, as you heard there, you heard a little bit of the crew chief spotter. Sounded fine. I'm kind of curious how busy he's going to be, or how talkative he is. Obviously, that smack against the wall sounded pretty good. Yeah, that's really all that we got from this. Pretty simple, but a couple things to take away from. I'm very curious what the wind detail is going to be like, how that's going to play into the game. The closest thing we've had anything with like track temperature or track conditions is Inside Line would have a little thing on the bottom right of the screen that would have like air temperature or track temperature. It would be like 87 degrees or something. Like, it'll be that was our most in-depth thing ever. So the fact we have wind, that's kind of interesting. I'm curious how that's going to play a factor into this. So I'm curious. We got a little bit of our first like in-game gameplay shot, which I'm not too much of a fan of the tachometer and like how that's displayed, but I do like how the camera's positioned for the Spar Chase mode. That's fine. I like how the braking control, traction control, stability stuff is on the bottom here. I don't know what this black box is here, unless that's probably for the gear, isn't it? Yeah, okay, it's for the gear. So, yeah. OT, I don't know what OT means. I don't know what OT means. But maybe WT, I have to imagine being weather temperature. It can't be 150 degrees. I don't know. But we got this stuff here. I'm too stupid to know what that is, but it's probably good, so hooray. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's me, but like, this shot here, it looks a lot like Heat 5. Like, the car looks a lot like Heat 5 from this angle. Like, the track obviously is like, obviously it's nowhere, this is way more detailed than Heat 5, but the way the car looks, graphically, it feels a lot like, in terms of like the coloring. Maybe I'm just crazy, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of mixed feelings on this. Again, I want to be very, I'm being very skeptical about all of this, because we've been burned so many times before in the past. So I'm trying to, not jump up and down. My clothes are still intact. The socks have not flown off me yet, so that's not a problem. Or I'm not at that stage yet. But I'm just trying to remain very, very, very pessimistic is the word. I don't know, but yeah. So I did not expect this to come out today. I had no idea they're gonna do Dev Diaries. If I remember correctly, this is better than Utenix one back in like 2011 when they were talking about having 43 cars in the field, which they were boasting about that being like a marvel to science when NASCAR games did that for like the last like 10 years prior to that. So yeah, it's better than that. I don't know if that means anything, but yeah. So I'm curious what the next one's gonna be like. But yeah, so that's it for me. I'm gonna get going. I will see you all later and have a good day.